Starting at number 5, where we're not going across an axis for a reflection, we're not going around the origin for a rotation, and so on, those can be quite a bit tougher to write rules for, and certainly harder to memorize rules for. So here the graph is really going to help more than a memorized rule could. For number 5, we want to do a reflection across the line x equals 1. So we just need to remember what the line x equals 1 looks like. Remember, that should cross the x-axis at 1, and then just go perpendicular to the x-axis. So we have a vertical line. As we did in number 2 above for that reflection, all we need to do is just count from each point to the line. So from K, it was 2 spaces to the left of the line, so K prime is 2 units to the right of the line. So there's K prime. Point J, 5 to the left, so J prime is 5 to the right. L, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right for L prime. And you can see we end up with congruent triangles, and we're done. There's no need to write a rule there. There is a rule that could be written, it's just not something we really need to worry about. For number 6, another one of those counterclockwise rotations. So for these, if you really want to use a memorized rule, there are ways to do that. If you would rather use the arrow trick that we did for number 4, that would work as well. Since I did the arrow trick in number 4, I'll try this one differently and try this one with a rule. They're telling us to rotate around point K. So I'm going to put a star at point K, and if I want to try to use one of those memorized rules, then I'm going to create what I just call fake axes. The old x-axis and the old y-axis, they're not there anymore as far as I'm concerned. I have a new x-axis, a new y-axis, and then I just need to remember my counterclockwise rule. So those 90-degree rotations, as we saw in number 4, they always swap the x and the y. Our clockwise rotation was a y comma negative x, and now this counterclockwise rotation is a negative y comma x. So the old y coordinate switches signs to become the new x coordinate or first coordinate. Point K is right there at our fake origin at the star, so K prime hasn't gone anywhere. Let's try some of these others. Point L, based on our fake axes, not the actual things that were there, but the axes that are just helping us, point L, from that point is at negative 3 comma 0, which means that L prime from those fake axes needs to follow that same rule. So I'm going to swap 0, negative 3, and I'm going to change one of the signs, the old y coordinate, the new x coordinate, but of course a negative 0 is still a 0. So L prime is at 0, comma negative 3. So 0 from the fake origin, comma negative 3. There's my L prime. I could have done that exact same thing with the arrows like we saw in number 4. Let's do this trick for J as well. From the fake origin, the coordinates of J would be negative 3, comma 3. If we follow our rule, we need to do a couple of things. First, they swap places. So a negative 3 in the second spot, positive 3 in the first spot, and that old y coordinate needs to switch signs. So from the star, I want negative 3, comma negative 3. There's my J prime. And remember that K prime hadn't gone anywhere. And there it is. And once again, there is a rule to write for that, but it is quite a bit more difficult than we would need to worry about. So the arrow trick, like I did in number 4, or the just memorized rule and that fake origin trick as we did here. Okay. Numbers 7 and 8 involve two transformations, so they're just two questions in one. For number 7, it's telling me to rotate 180 degrees around, not the origin, but -1, 3. Okay. We could, as always, use our memorized rule if we wanted. If we created a fake origin through that star, so x, y, 180 degree rotation. They don't swap places, but they both change signs. So we could use that, but that's what I just did in number 6. So let's try this one with the arrow trick. From the star to get to point K, I just have to go down 1 unit. So let's rotate that arrow 180 degrees. So instead of going down, it's going to go up from the star 1 unit. Just the exact opposite. Okay. To get from the star to point L, I have to go left 3 and down 1. So we'll rotate those arrows. To get to L prime, instead of left, I'll go right 3. Instead of down, I'll go up 1. Remember, 180 degree rotation just says do the exact opposite. Instead of left and down, go right and up. So I'll go right 3, up 1. There's L prime. From the star to point J, I have to go left 3 again, and up 2. 180 degrees tells me to go right 3, and down 2. So from the star, I'll go right 3, and down 2. There's J prime. And I'll connect those. And you can see my two triangles are just kind of in opposite positions around that star. Then they asked me to take that and translate it right 2 units and down 5 units. I'm going to do this one in blue for my final answer. So, as we did up in number 1, I'm just going to take each vertex and do what it tells me. Translate right 2 units and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's J double prime. For L, right 2 and down 5. So L prime is now L double prime. And K, right 2 and down 5, K prime, is now K double prime. So my final answer here is this blue guy. You don't have to draw the orange one, but it would be pretty hard to get this perfect without drawing that as the helper. But our final answer, the only thing that's technically required, is the blue one. Number 8 involves a reflection followed by a rotation. We want to make sure that we're doing it in the order they're telling us to. If I did a rotation first followed by a reflection, that might make a difference depending on those exact reflections and rotations. So here, going across the x-axis, we did one of these earlier. Just everything above the axis will flip to being below the axis. So instead of being 2 units above, L prime should be 2 units below. K, same thing. It was 2 units above. So now we're 2 units below. And then to get to J, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units above. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units below. And then they're telling us to go 90 degrees clockwise around 0, 0. This, as with any rotation and as with most of these, we could do this with the memorized rule or with the arrows. I did the arrows on number 7, so I'll do the memorized rule here. Our 90 degree clockwise rule, we saw that in an earlier question. It swaps the coordinates, and it changes the sign of one of them. For a clockwise rotation, we're going to end up either with negative y comma x or with y comma negative x. And if you look at that previous question, the clockwise rotation gave us y comma negative x. So I'm just going to use coordinates. Since we're going around 0, 0, I don't need fake axes. I can use the x and y axis that was provided to me. And then I'll just write some coordinates. So L prime is at negative 4, comma negative 2. So L double prime, we swap the order. So negative 2, negative 4. And the old first coordinate, the new second coordinate, has switched signs. So negative 2, comma positive 4. There's L prime. Sorry, L double prime. For K prime, those coordinates are negative 1, negative 2 on what we can see already. So we'll swap those, negative 2, negative 1, and just like before, the old x coordinate, the new y coordinate, has switched signs. So negative 2, comma positive 1, my K double prime. And J prime. On the red triangle, J prime is at negative 4, comma negative 5. So once again, I'm going to swap the x and the y, and the old x, the new y. I'm going to change signs, so a negative becomes a positive. So negative 5, comma positive 4. That is my J double prime. So here, once again, I'll do my final answer in blue. You might notice we could have actually done that with just one transformation. Think for a second about a single transformation that would have gotten us from that very first triangle to this blue one. The question didn't ask, but just for the sake of pointing it out, we could have gotten there just in one step with a 180-degree rotation around this orange point, negative 3, comma 3. The symmetry helps us see that a 180-degree rotation would have worked just as well. I'm going to start a new video for number 9 on the back.